Hello and welcome to Interview with the Gunmaker No.4. Today we're talking to one of the best known stockers in the British gun trade, although he doesn't originate from these isles. So please welcome to Interview with the Gunmaker, Stephane Dupille. Steph, welcome.
Hello, Dig. How are you?
I'm well. We were just saying a minute ago how we were enjoying the COVID-19 lockdown, and there you are isolated in your workshop, and here am I isolated in my office.
Locked in.
Strange days.
Yeah, very strange indeed, yes.
So readers and viewers of the Vintage Gun Journal are learning a little bit about some of the gun makers who are here working in the UK trade and producing all the finest guns and rifles being made in the world at the moment. And you are currently probably, or arguably the best known stocker in the country.
There's many more, Dig.
There are many more, but quite often when I'm in conversation with people, they ask me, do you know Stephane? Have you seen his work? And of course, you've done work for me, and I've seen work you've done for every major gun maker working in this country. But if we can go back to the beginning, where did you come from and how did you grow up?
Well, I'm French. I was born in Rouen, in Normandy. I'm originally from Normandy, and well, I wanted to be a gun maker from a very, very early age. I would say from when I was 12 years old, and it was my ambition from a very, very early age. Yeah.
What created that interest? Were you interested first in shooting, and then you became interested in the guns?
Well, my father is a collector of antique guns, vintage guns, flintlocks, all sorts really. He's very passionate about old guns. And he's a hunter, he's a wild boar hunter. That's his passion, wild boar hunting. And from an early age, I went with him every Sunday during the hunting season, spending time in the woods, in a big forest in Normandy, hunting with him, following him. And I started to hunt as well from, I would say, 14, 15 years old. So I had a passion for hunting, the guns. He had a big workshop, so he did let me strip some lovely guns, restore some vintage guns. So I had that passion from a very, very early age, really.
So you really couldn't avoid it. You've grown up with these things almost in your blood.
I had no choice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So your parents, they were obviously very encouraging of your ambitions. I mean, they obviously understood it as a hobby, but was your father pleased for you to go into it professionally? Did he think it was a good career choice?
He was extremely supportive because one of his best friends is a stockmaker in France. He's a famous stockmaker, Denis Lemoine, one of the best stockmakers. I went to his workshop when I was young, and I just fall in love with the atmosphere of the workshop, the tools, the old guns, and also the customers coming. They were very charismatic, and I fall in love completely with this, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. My dad was very supportive, very happy to know that his son knew what he wanted to do in the future. So yeah, he was very supportive, always, all the way, really.
Good.
Which is great.
Your system over there for learning to be a gun maker in many European countries is not quite what people are used to here, where we have an apprentice system traditionally, with boys going in at the age of sort of 16 and being apprenticed to a particular gaffer and learning the trade. Just describe how you first learned your gunsmithing skills and when that took place.
Well, as I said, from 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be a gun maker. So I did a little bit of research, and I did listen some good advice from gun makers in France. So at 16 years old, I went to an engineering school to learn how to use machinery, lathe, milling machine, to have a little bit of engineering knowledge. And I've done that for 2 years. And at the age of 18 years old, I went to the famous gunmaker school in Liège in Belgium, where I did 3 years of action filing, metalwork, and at the same time in the evening, I went to an art school to learn how to work on the wood. And back then I thought it would be good to know how to use a chisel. So I didn't know later it would be my main job would be the woodwork.
So you didn't know that stocking was where you would end up at the beginning. You were learning all the gunsmithing and gun making skills together.
Yeah, that's correct. I did a little bit of everything to know what I would love the most, really. So it was quite good. And at the same time, I was a student at the Gunmaker school. I was an apprentice at Marcel Thies & Son, and famous a side lock maker, very famous for their big double rifles.
Yeah.
And I've been very privileged to be able to work every Friday, weekend, bank holidays with them at the same time. So it was a full-on, I would say, education about gun making, really.
And who was your main educator at Marcel Thies? Who were you working with on a daily basis to learn?
I was very lucky because the teachers during the day at school were Didier Thies. He was my teacher for the stock making, and he was very, very good. He's very good, he's still very good today. And for the metal work, it was his brother, Eric Thies, who is an actioner. So during the day, they were my teacher, and during the weekend and holiday, I was working with them in their workshop with their employees as well. So it was great. It was great.
And what age were these men when you were doing this?
Sorry?
How old were these men when you were doing this?
I think they were mid-30s, late 30s, I would say. Yes, yeah.
And they learned from their family. It was a family business that went back a few generations, was it?
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, from their father, who was who did create the business, Marcel Thies & Son. Yes, yeah.
So, how long was your training altogether at the gun making school and at Thies?
Well, it was 3 years in total, but it was quite intensive. It was during the day, evening course, weekend, holiday. Yeah, 3 years. It was 3 years. But that gives you the base, really. You're not ending up a proper gun maker after the 3 years, but it gives you a good general knowledge about guns, the metalwork, the woodwork. You study ballistic as well, safety, all sorts, really, which is really, really good.
Yeah. So, after you'd finished training, what was your first job? Where did you go to work?
I was very lucky. I did work for Gaston Renette in Paris, famous gun maker in Paris. I had to do my military service, my obligation in the army. So I was waiting to receive my ticket with my destination, where to go. So I did work for a few months in Paris for Gaston Renette. And it's there I fall in love for the first time with the English guns, because at Gaston Renette, it was a big place, big shop, big workshop, very wealthy customers. And there I put my hands for the first time on some lovely Boss & Co guns, Wesley Richards, Holland & Holland, Churchill. And honestly, I really fall in love. I really fall in love for the first time with the English guns. It was there, really.
And what was it in particular that stood out to you about English guns? Why did they catch your attention so grippingly?
It was just the general line, the finesse of the gun, the engraving, the balance of the gun. I mean, they really did stand out compared to Belgium gun or French gun. Don't get me wrong, there's some lovely, lovely gun made by some good gun makers in France, Belgium, Italy, everywhere. However, the British gun really did stand out for me. You know, they were completely different, well-made, strong. Yeah, a Wesley Richard on the rack did really stand out compared to many, many guns. You know, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
So at what point did you decide to specialize in stock making?
Well, I did my military time for nearly a year, and I had a job offer in Strasbourg, east of France, near the German border, to work for a very famous gunmaker, Jean-Jacques Sipe and Son. And they had a job as the stock maker, and I took it. Right. And Germany, Austria, very difficult system and actions. So it was quite difficult, I have to say. I did spend 3 years there, and I've learned a lot in woodwork and metalwork as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, and when did you first come to England looking for work? Did you come to England looking for work as a gunmaker, or did you come for another reason?
Odd enough, I was young. I wanted to have a different life. I didn't want to stay in France. I wanted to live in abroad, to have a different life, really. I wanted something different. I mean, I left France from an early age to go to study in Belgium. It was already quite a big thing. Yeah. But I wanted more. I really wanted more. I didn't want to settle down too early. So, and in the back of my head, you know, again in Strasbourg, I saw some lovely English guns, and I did love the English music, the British music as well. It was, you know, I loved it, and I thought in my head one day I would go to England. Why not? And
did you have any contacts in England that you could follow up, or did you just come and start looking around?
No, at all. Back then there were no mobile phone, internet wasn't like it is today. I simply sent a letter and a pack of pictures I did take from the work I've done, and I did send it to the big gun makers in London, Rigby, Holland, Purday, Boss & Co. That's what I did, yeah.
And who took you up?
Some of them didn't reply. Holland did reply very kindly, but they had a lot of stockers back then, and it's Paul Roberts from Rigby who did reply to me and did offer me a job at Rigby. And so I came, I think, a month later, after I had the reply. I went to visit his premises, and I went there, but there were already another stocker, and don't ask me why I declined his offer. And he did send me to Watson Brothers, and I went there and had a job straight away. Literally a month later, I was working for Watson Brothers in London Bridge.
And that was Michael Luca then that gave you that job?
That's right, yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll be speaking to Michael on another of these interviews, so I'll look forward to seeing what he's got to say about you.
Yes.
So how was your first day in a London gunmaker at Watson Brothers? Was it a very different experience to working on the continent, or did you slot right in as you'd expected to?
It was completely different. The way guns are made, yeah, it was completely different. I mean, obviously, imagine for me, I was French. My English was dreadful, still today. But yeah, everything was new for me. It was very interesting, and I was really willing to learn every day. You know, I was very excited because it's my passion, and to be in London and working on English gun, it was like a dream come true, really. So I really enjoyed it.
And who were the more experienced gun makers that were working for Watson Brothers at that time that you learned alongside?
You had quite a few people. You had Martin Smith, who was a very good engraver. He's a very good engraver, and he was there. They were a good team back then. There were somebody else called, I think, Mark Upshare, who was an actioner, an ex-boss, Boss & Co. actioner. There were few people. It wasn't a big team, but it was, the atmosphere was great. It was fantastic to work there, I have to say, yeah.
So how long did you stay at Watson Brothers?
I think I did stay over a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
And I moved on to work for Holland in Holland as a stockmaker again, yes.
And the decision to move to Holland was to experience a different environment, or to learn to work on different styles of guns. What was your
to work on different style, really. I could do the inletting, the fitting, but I wanted to learn more about the shape, the different shapes, because a particularity of English guns, I mean, for the stock making, is they've got different shape. The stocks are different, and I wanted to learn more about it. And,
yeah, this is something that people often don't really understand, and quite often you'll see guns that have been restocked, English guns that have been restocked in other countries, and people will show you the gun, and although the work might be quite neat, the shape is often totally wrong for the gun. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance of getting the shapes and the checker layout and the drop points and the angles correct, and how they differ from, for example, Purdy to Holland to Boss?
Well, the metalwork, first of all, the metalwork of the different guns, they're different. Some of them are quite square. Some of them, they've got, they're more, the lines are more smooth, more sleek. So obviously you need to have the wood which I would say follows the line of the metalwork. It's quite important. Some guns, yeah, they're all different, and the lines of the wood need to match. And they've got their own style as well. You know, it's like cars. You know, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Porsche. They retain their lines. After decades, it's still the same. They keep the main line. Is to be different, to be distinctive. Really, it's quite important.
And in terms of choosing wood for stock making, again, this is something customers quite often want to do for themselves, and quite often they'll go off and buy a piece of wood, which when it turns up on the workshop bench and they say, I want you to use this to restock my gun, there are all sorts of problems that the layman can't see when they choose a piece of wood. So what's important for you when choosing a good piece of wood to stock an English sidelock, for example?
Well, you need to be pretty, there's no doubt about it. You know, if you got a nice English gun, you put something elegant. However, as well, you know, you've got different guns made in different time. You don't want to have something too fancy on the gun, otherwise it does look over the top. It doesn't match the style of the gun, really. But beauty is important, but as well the grain, the way the grain go, you need to be strong in the grip. It's very important. From the side and the top, but also the quality of the wood is important. Some wood are too porous, too light. Unfortunately, these days the wood has been dried. They accelerate the process of drying the wood, but by doing so, they damage the natural glue of the wood, which link all the fiber together. That makes the wood very brittle, very porous, difficult to finish as well, and they do break eventually.
In the old days, it used to be a traditional system of basically taking wet wood blanks and waxing the ends and sticking them under a table for 7 years until the moisture content balanced out. It's much more industrially now, isn't it? Because people want to make the money faster.
Yes, that's correct. So it's still possible to buy some wet, we call it wet wood, and keep it. But you're right, you know, these days people want to buy a piece of wood and be able to use it straight away. So it's a bit difficult, really. I would say to find a good piece of wood, it takes a lot of time to find a nice piece of wood. Yeah,
it does, absolutely. And I've been with other gun makers who've been driven some of these salesmen mad by going through every piece of wood in their van and then only choosing 2 blanks that they thought were any good.
I do it.
Actually do.
It's tiring.
So the cost of wood is getting more and more every year, isn't it? And these trees, of course, take hundreds of years or at least decades to grow and develop the figure that we want for the gun making industry. How difficult do you see it in the future being in terms of being able to get the quality of wood that people like you need to create the guns you make?
Well, I find there's still a lot of wood, especially coming from Turkey. I mean, it's not a problem to find wood, really. It's just to find a good quality. But I do believe it's not only Turkey who's got walnut trees. There will be some other place to find walnuts in the future, I think.
Yeah, some's been coming out of Bulgaria, but
Yes.
it does vary a lot in terms of colour, doesn't it? Depending where it comes from. Some of it's very dark, and some of it's almost orange, depending what region it's being sourced from.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And you got some as well in California, I think. So I don't think it would be a problem to find wood, really. I mean, in the gun trade for the British market, we don't need a huge amount of wood, really, compared to Beretta.
Yeah.
All we want is good quality. That's what we want. The nice piece of wood, the nice one.
Yeah.
So it's possible to find it.
Are some styles of gun easier or more difficult to stock than others, or are they just different?
Well, some of them are very difficult. If you take an example, a barring wood Dixon or an old per gun barring wood, they're quite difficult to stock. They need more attention. Some guns with a single trigger system, such as the Boss & Co. With a turret, a single trigger, you have to be very careful the way you lay the trigger plate. It's quite delicate. You need to be very accurate. Yeah, some guns are more difficult to stock than others, definitely, yes.
And you've stocked guns for all the best known names in the trade that I'm sure viewers will know by heart. So are there any particular jobs that you've had that have come through your workshop for special guns that stand out as having been things you've been particularly proud to work on?
There have been quite a few, I have to say. I've been very lucky to work for the best. I'm still working for them today. I did work for Peter Nelson for many years, and yeah, his guns, when they were finished, they were absolutely superb with the engraving, and they were going to America to some of the biggest collectors of guns in the world. So I was quite proud to work for him. I remember working at Holland and stocking some big double rifle. I'm quite fond of big double rifle, 700 Nitro Express, 600, 500, 470 Nitro Express. I think I nearly stock all the big calibers when I used to work at Holland, but that was quite special and tiring because they are very heavy.
Yeah, and people would perhaps mistakenly think that the job of a stocker is fairly repetitive, that you're doing the same thing every day, but every gun is different. And from what you're saying, you really need to be focused 100% on what you're doing from job to job, because there are so many small differences you have to get just right. And that must take a lot of experience and a lot of concentration to understand that.
Yes, well, I'm quite lucky. We are lucky because it's not just me. I've got a lovely little team. But we are, yeah, I'm very lucky to for many years to have been working for different gun makers. So it's never been repetitive. So Purday, Boss, Holland, Wesley Richards, it was Peter Nelson, Dixon, Atkin, Grant and Lang. So it's always different, and it's not easy. It's quite difficult to to remember everything. Obviously, I've got a lot of templates and notes, measurements, and it's quite a lot to remember, really. But it's nice because it's always different. When every day it's always the same thing, it can be boring, but I'm never bored, never.
Yeah, and in terms of understanding the correct styles and shapes that go with older guns, how much time do you spend looking at examples of old guns that come through the workshops and that you've seen in auctions and places to really get a feel for how style as it develops for companies like Dixon and Purdy?
Well, you know, to learn, I mean, I had to go to their place, you know, for Boss. I went there to spend time to see, I mean, I must still do it today, you know, to go there and have a catch up with them and see the different shape to make sure I do it like they do it. I've done the same with Purdy, with Peter Nelson, Holland and Holland. It's constant, you know, you want to keep up, you know, with the shape to stay in, to keep the right lines and do the same thing all the time. But yeah, I mean, when there's a gun coming in, the shapes tend to change. You know, if you take a Holland and Holland made in the 30s or 20s, the shape is different compared to today. You know, there is like an evolution. Things change depending on the foreman, the people who work there, who did work there. You know, yeah, there is a bit of change over time. You can see it. You know. A little bit.
Yeah. And so you now work as an independent gun maker with your own premises, and you've got other people that work with you there. So just describe your typical daily routine. How do you start your day off and balance your time at the bench with helping your apprentices or working with your colleagues or dealing with sales? You have quite a lot of things going on there. How do you manage?
Well, the emails and the paperwork is not what I like, really, but I have to do it. So, yeah, I will start to do my emails in the morning and make myself a nice cup of coffee, you know, because I'm French. And I will, yeah, I will talk to my employees and Vincent and Aidan. And Vincent is a full-time stocker. And Hayden is an apprentice. He's doing finishing, and he's doing really, really well. So yeah, I just managed to do my work, stocking work, and I do a little bit of repairs. We've got a lot of customers coming in and out as well. So yeah, I'm very busy during the day. It's not boring. There's always something to do. Obviously, I'm very, very busy every day. Yes.
Now, you mentioned your apprentice there. Now, I remember talking to you a few years ago, and you were considering taking apprentices on then, but it seemed like it was a difficult thing to be able to manage, you know, because of the amount of time you need to spend away from the bench, where you're actually, in honest terms, earning your money, and invest some of that time in a youngster and pass on some of your skills. So in order to take somebody on, you must have been quite particular about getting the right person with the right sort of attitude and attributes. So what sort of person did you look for, and how did you make the decision to employ the person that you employed as an apprentice?
Well, for instance, Vincent, who worked with me, came to spend a few Saturdays here. He was already working for a gunmaker in London, and he really did like the atmosphere of the workshop. And he was very similar to me. He wanted to be a gunmaker from an early age, very passionate, very dedicated to learn and to do his job and to do it right. He wanted to come to work for me, and I took him on board. And he was exceptional, I would say. Easy to teach him. You know, it's not difficult when you're passionate about something, when you really love something, it's easy to learn. Yeah. When you make a lot of effort to learn, it's easy. It's easy, and for the teacher, it's easy as well. You know, it's great because you get the reward and you want to teach more. It's great.
So
Yeah.
do you think enthusiasm and ambition and love for the job is more important than any particular talents or natural aptitudes? Do you think with the right amount of enthusiasm and focus, anybody can learn to be a effective gunmaker?
It's not for everybody. I would say you need to be extremely passionate about it first, and two, you need some skill as well. You need to be good with your hands, and but most of all, you need to accept failure. It's not always easy from the start, and you need to accept that you can't do it right straight away. So you need to persevere and do it again and again and again till you reach success. You can do it. Yeah, you need to be very passionate, committed, and skilled. You need a bit of skill as well. It's not easy because, you know, some jobs you are working on them for a week and a half before it's finished, and you need to be concentrated on it. The concentration is key as well, you know, and it's not for everybody, you know. It's not for everybody.
No, it's attention to detail is absolutely key, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you've got two boys, haven't you?
Yes, I have, yes.
Would you encourage them to go into the gun trade, or would you like to see them do something else?
I don't want to force my children, my boys, to do my work. However, if one day they spend a bit of time here and they fall in love with the job, I will support them. It's no problem. I will teach them, and but I don't want to force them at all. They need to be free. I want them to do what they want to do.
Of course, that's good parenting.
Exactly.
Very modern. What's happening in the gun trade at the moment, Steph, that excites you or makes you nervous? What do you think the next 12 months is going to bring?
I don't know with what's going on now. It's going to be challenging, but I think we are very lucky in UK. You know, there's a lot of enthusiasm for game shooting, for clay shooting. I think we are in a strong position compared to France, Belgium, in general. We've got that passion in UK, you know, for game shooting, for guns, but in a nice way, you know. I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. You know, we've got the lead ban maybe, but we can find a way around it. You know, I'm sure the cartridge manufacturer will find a solution, and we will still be able to use the old English guns. I'm pretty sure about it. It's no problem.
Yeah, the gun trade has always reacted to changing circumstances with a lot of invention and resilience. So I share your confidence there.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned our love of country sports and guns. Do you still enjoy shooting?
I don't have much time to shoot, so I always have a customer who invite me to go shooting, and sometimes I do accept their invitation. So I would love to shoot more. Maybe I should do it in the future. But yes, I do a bit of clay shooting occasionally, and game shooting, but not as much as I would like to do, really.
And when you do shoot, what do you shoot with?
I've got some old Browning. I use a very nice chapuis arm, round body style. I use different things. Sometimes I just grab a gun in the cupboard and I just try it. If it fit me, I will use it. And it could be a Boss & Co. It could be a French gun, an old side-by-side. So yeah, I'm quite lucky. I can pick and choose.
And that's an interesting thing, because, you know, people that shoot guns a lot will often do exactly what you say, pull something off the shelf and go and use it. But when it comes to restocking guns for customers, how important is gun fit to you, and how do you go about ensuring that the gun that you're building for a particular customer is going to be perfect for them when they come to shoot it?
Well, it's extremely, the gun is very important, but I think to me, the most important is the stock. the stock measurement, the stock fitting. If the stock fits you really, really well, you will perform really well in the field or on the shooting ground. This is important, very, very important to me. It's crucial. There's a lot of people out there who shoot with their own guns. They've been shooting with it for years and years, and they don't fit them. And as soon as they have a gun fitting check and they get some alterations done to their stock, the difference is massive, enormous. Yeah, yeah.
And do you often find that when somebody comes to you for a new stocking job, or particularly a restocking job on an older gun, that actually they don't even know what sort of fit they require, and when you look at them, you find out that they've been shooting with ill-fitting guns their entire lives and didn't even recognize it?
Yeah, there's different things. Yeah, some people did. The stock need to be adapted to the shooter. The shooter shouldn't adapt himself to the stock. There's a lot of people here who use their gun. They've been using their gun for many years and they don't fit. But also you need to know physically we do change. Some people gain weight, some people lose weight, and that has an impact on a gun fitting. So yeah, there's a lot of things to check, really.
And shooting style is also important, I think. I don't know what your views are on this, but if you haven't learned how to stand properly and mount a gun properly, it's very difficult to fit somebody properly for a gun if they don't know how to hold it correctly and swing it in the most effective way. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. And depending on the style of the shooting as well, you know, the pitch, the angle of the back of the butt end can change depending on what you shoot. It has an impact. There's a lot of things. It's quite complex, really. Yes.
So, Steph, it's been very interesting talking to you. I'm sure people have been interested in listening to all the things you've had to say, but you've mentioned one or two people who've in the gun trade who've been influences on you in your time. If you were to think of somebody who you think people would be interested in listening to, who would you nominate us to interview next?
In an English trade?
Yeah.
Peter Nelson, that would be interesting.
I've sent Peter a message. I'm hoping he's going to say yes.
Good.
He's a legend.
Yeah, because he's extremely passionate. I know he's retired now, but he's a man with a lot of knowledge and he's full of passion. So yeah, that would be interesting. Who else? Let me think. Ken Douglas?
Yes, well, that might be an interesting one to try.
I don't know. You should know.
Yes, I've got my own ideas, but I always like to ask for other people's as well, because
there are many. There are many.
Steph, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm going to let you get back to chopping bits of wood off other bits of wood.
Yeah, I'm going to put my apron back on, and yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.